Now the UN Committee on Elimination of Racial Discrimination has today released its findings and recommendations on several countries it's reviewed, including the UK and Iran. Our correspondent in Switzerland, Imagine Folks, told us about the UK findings in the report. It's an interesting read because although much of the evidence reviewed by the committee was gathered really before the general election, before the very recent riots, one of the big concerns that the UN committee members have is what they call persistent race hate and race crime or incitement to a racial crime in the UK. From politicians, from figures in public life, these could be in the entertainment industry, sometimes politicians, as we know, who also do turn presenting TV programs, and that they don't name names. Some people in Britain will maybe have an idea who they mean, but they say they're particularly concerned about this and that the UK really needs to tackle this because they say there's an absolutely clear link between this kind of expression, whether it's online, on social media, or on television, or on a political platform. There is a clear link between that and the kind of unrest and violence that we saw in the UK in July and early August. So there's great concern about that. And there's also a longer-term concern which has been expressed in earlier reviews of the UK to do with what they fear is institutionalized racism. Within law enforcement, they want the UK to take a long, hard look at stop and search and set up an independent body to examine that and to look at allegations of racial profiling. Image and Folks in Geneva. Well, let's speak to Boone Cut, who is a member of the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination and the Country Role for the UK Review. Mr. K, thank you very much for joining us here on BBC News. What are the findings that particularly leapt out for you? The committee is actually comparing the situation in the United Kingdom when it was last appeared before the committee in 2016, and now. So what has been happening since the last time the committee issued its recommendations to the State Party? And given the especially recent developments, the committee has raised a number of concerns and came up with a number of recommendations related to those concerns, bringing to the attention of the authorities, both the UK government and the devolved governments, the issues that needs to be addressed and be taken care of. Give us a sense of what those concerns are, just briefly, if you would. There are a number of issues that are raised, starting from the human rights framework, in general legislation on racial discrimination, racist hate crimes, and hate speech, the situation of national human rights institutions, participation of ethnic and other vulnerable groups in political and public life, right to freedom of peaceful assembly, criminal justice system and juvenile justice system, among others. To what extent do you name those responsible for hate speech or inciting hate? Because some of them have public profiles. Yes, that is one of the issues that was raised in the concluding observations. The committee does not name names because, as I said, our analysis span a period of a number of years now, and there are several examples, cases that were raised and happened throughout this period. So it's not the names as such that is important, it's what is important is the fact that there is a clear link between public figures engaging in hate speech and what comes afterwards. That is an incitement to hatred that results in hate crimes, and that link is so clear that we really don't need the main names, because when you look at the media, it's obvious that who is actually responsible and which public figures actually do not live up to their obligations. Yes, and some of those comments, of course, were around the recent riots that we've seen. Just briefly, then give us a sense of the kind of recommendations you're making for the to implement. Actually, a number of levels are involved. The first level is, of course, the legislative level. If there is something missing in the legislation to take care of an issue such as hate crimes, we raised that, and we asked the state party governments and responsibles to take initiative. The second level is the policy level. Devise, implement, and more importantly perhaps monitor and evaluate policies that are designed to counter the discriminatory effects of the problems that were raised, the concerns that were raised, and finally, if possible, take concrete actions and show political will, because everything depends on the political will. If the government wants to achieve something, they have the means, not really anybody else. Got from the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. Thanks for Watching for more updates, like, share, subscribe and press bell icon.